Hello, Victor Wooten. How are you doing?
Doing very well, Doctor Thunder Sean Wallace, my good friend. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
My mic
Uh,
sound okay?
oh no, it sounds good. Sounds good.
Perfect.
So I'm just going to kind of rewind to to try to kind of retrace how we know each other.
Yeah.
Um, I think I think we know each other as the result of Derico Watson, who we had in common.
Absolutely.
Um, Derico played in one of my bands, and then I played in a band with him prior to him moving down uh, to Nashville.
Yeah.
And even prior to that, he was touring with you and playing with you.
Hmm.
Um, and if my memory serves correctly, I think I must have been maybe it was like 2000 in that I think around 2000, and there was some was a conference at was it like a Midwest conference or something, and you were at the conference performing,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then after that, Dorico connected us. And of course, I was uh, very happy that you wanted me to call you, and and then the rest is history, as they said. I mean, because of you, um, I was able to um set up my first endorsement deals.
All right. All right.
You connected me with Digitech back then, and and then um, and things have grown, and stuff has changed, and things. But
Yeah.
another thing that you're responsible for that maybe you don't know is so you came to Ohio State in
Hey, this is funny. Just look at this. I don't know if you can see who's calling me right now.
Dorico
Hold on, we got to
Watson.
pause. Hold on, we got to do this. Hold on. Oh, this is perfect, and this was not planned. Rico, man, I'm doing a talk podcast, whatever they call it these days, right now. See if you recognize his voice.
Hey man, what's happening?
You recognize?
What's going on? Say it one more time.
He said, "Say it one more time."
Hey man, what's happening from Michigan?
From Michigan?
Yeah, yeah. That's the doctor, man.
Hey man, what?
That
I'm missing it.
that that
Who
that's
is that?
that's thunder. Yeah, man.
What's up?
What's happening, man?
Yeah. Hey, we'll
Oh man.
yeah, Dorico, we will talk later. I'm doing this little doing a Zoom talk and we're recording it and we were just talking about you and then you called. Amazing, right?
Okay. Okay, yeah. All right, call me back and we'll talk in the morning, man.
All right, that'll work, man. I'll send you a text.
All right, Sean.
All right, man.
All right.
All
Take
right.
care. Take care, Dorico. Bye bye.
See you, everybody. Bye bye.
All right. That's funny, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. Um,
Yeah.
so I think it was 2005,
Hmm.
and you came to Ohio State to do a master class um, um, for Dr. Robinson and the bass studio.
Yeah.
And of course, I came and I checked out the master class. We knew each other already at that time, but I'm always interested in what you have to say because um, and also I was a little bit on the fence about learning how to play bass guitar. It's
Hmm.
something that was kind of rumbling around in my head, and I was like, is this something I want to do? And I'm telling you, after that master class that you gave, I went right to a music store and bought a bass.
Oh, wow. Wow. Now you can give me lessons.
Oh,
Me some.
but anyhow, I'm saying that to say that you've had a profound influence on me, and you know, during my doctoral studies, which I recently finished, I interviewed you because, as far as I can tell, you are the most important figure in live looping.
Mm.
Basically, I mean, I know there were some things that occurred prior to you,
Uh-huh.
but really it's because of you that that whole thing really took off. And I had a research project, and so you were kind and you allowed me to interview you and ask you a bunch of questions about that, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. I do know that a lot of people got into looping because of me, but there were people before me doing it. And for me, one of the first, if not the first, I credit this guy as the first for me, was Jaco Pastorius.
Right.
And he was looping, and then eventually I was looping before there were looping pedals.
Hmm.
It was all a delay pedal.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, delay pedals allowed you to put an infinite hold on it.
Mm.
You could make something delay. If you hit the button real quick, it would just keep delaying. And then you take the hold off. You could layer something else real quick and hit the button again.
Mm.
But the first layer was fading out. While you layered the second one. But there was a lot I learned about looping because of the way that worked. And there's some things about looping that I hear a lot of current loopers neglecting. Like a lot I hear, especially with bass players. Bass is such a big instrument. As soon as you lay three parts, you're battling yourself. You got three fat basses, and then you're trying to play a melody or a solo, right? But when we used to loop earlier, and Michael Manring is so good at looping. I know he didn't get it from me. He had to have already been doing it. So there were some people that were already doing it, but we probably all got it from Jaco. But with the delay looping, with the infinite hold, you had to the part that you wanted the softest, you would put in the delay first,
Right.
knowing that by the time I got my third or fourth layer, that first one's real soft. So that kind of forced us early loopers, to understand dynamics by just the whatever you call it, of the pedal, the inaccuracies of the pedal.
Hmm.
So now when I'm looping, I think like that. All the parts shouldn't be the same. When I'm looping, it's like I'm mixing a tune. If it's a rhythm guitar part, it's probably soft. Bass part, maybe kind of fat, but one of the things I do automatically is I set my loop to play back at the most 90%. I don't have my loops play back at 100%. Then I'm fighting myself.
Huh.
So and the loopers are better now. I've got one right here at my feet. I have them set to play back between 80 and 90%, depending on the looping pedal, so that when I loop myself and then I want to play on top, that is not much of a problem. I'm already on top, and I don't have to play so hard. I can lighten up, you know.
Mm.
But then I'm already thinking that way too. This part needs to be a little soft, you know, things like that. So it's just not a bunch of the same volume, and then I gotta fight. The other thing too is if I know I'm playing chords, I thin out the tone of the bass, yeah,
Mm.
automatically, because I not only am I fighting volume, I'm fighting tonality. If I'm going to play with three bass parts, if I'm looping everything with the bass, I'm adding a bunch of low end that I got to try to now cut through. So with that thought already going in, it helps my looping sound a little bit different than the normal.
Yeah, and you're looping. I mean, the first time I heard you do that live. I mean, I had seen some footage of you doing it, but when I saw you doing it in person, again, that was tremendously influential. I mean, part of my desire to get connected with Digitech, which you connected me with, was so that I could acquire a looper,
Yeah.
a multi effects pedal that had looping capability, and I went pretty nuts with that. Um,
Well, I
the,
mean, you got that brain, man. You go nuts with everything, whatever you get into. Even your doctorate. That's the thing. And for me, I first heard you as a sax player. and you were just not normal. You know, you get into everything and you take it further, and that's one of the things I like about you. And Dorico the same way as a drummer. And I gravitate to people with that mode of thinking because my brothers were that way, and they brought me up that way. You learn everything you can, and then you take it further and make it yours.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, man.
Let's talk about your upbringing and your the influence that your brothers had on you, as far as you know, putting a bass in your hand and teaching you
Yeah,
and putting you out front.
totally, totally. I
Yeah.
mean, that's everything for me. You know, and they still do that. They still hold me above them. They put me on their shoulders, and they've always done that. A lot of people who hear I'm the youngest of five boys, they say, "Oh man, I bet you never got to eat, or I bet you always got beat up." You know, and it was totally the opposite. You know, I mean, even today, I bet, if there was only one donut left, I would get it. They would make sure of it. That's the way they always treated me, the little baby brother. And so there's a lot of things that people know me for. Maybe spinning my bass around my neck, two hand tapping, just a lot of stuff. Even the double thumbing. I didn't come up with that stuff. Reggie did. My oldest brother, Reggie. He would say, "Oh man, Victor, you got to try this. You need to do this. Man, here's an idea for you. If you do this, man, people will go crazy." And then I would do it. He'd just sit in the back and smile, and I would get the credit. So every chance I get to talk about my brothers, I take that opportunity so I can point the finger and the appreciation back at them. But yeah, it was Reggie who taught me bass, but all my brothers taught me music because literally, and I mean literally, when I was born, they already knew I was the bass player because Reggie was playing guitar, Roy drums, Rudy saxophone. Reggie had taught Joseph keys, so Reggie was just waiting for another brother that he could teach to play the bass to round out the band. And that became me right away. So literally, I have never not played the bass. Done this my whole life. And they knew about it before I was even born. So like you speak great English because everybody knew before you were born you're going to speak English, right? Everybody was doing it. You learned it, no problem. I was the same way with music. I learned music, no problem. But it was the way my parents and my brothers thought that allowed me to take it into my own place. The same way we speak with our own voice. Not really through trying, it was how we were developed, right? You didn't have to learn to talk through someone else's method,
Correct.
right? No one told you what words to learn first. Sean, go practice these words. No. Whatever we wanted to say first is what we learned first. And even if we said it wrong, we were still appreciated, right?
No.
So music was the same way for me. I learned in that freedom way and doing it with people, not in a room by myself practicing, but doing it with people. So I was very, very fortunate. And then the rules and the practice came later. Like, I'm sure you got your English better once you could talk. You learned more adjectives, pronouns after you could talk. In music, we want you to learn the rules first, learn to play second. To me, that's backwards, and that's not how I learn, which is one of the biggest and main reasons I have my own voice on the instrument, because that's where I started.
Yeah, my dad had a similar philosophy, and of course, I have to heavily rely on conversations I have with him now to recall anything, because I started when I was young. You started younger than I did, but I started when I was 6, and so much of what was happening when I started, what he had me working on, what he had me practicing, the way he talked about music, the stuff that was on around the house, all of that stuff is stuff that I have had to go back and ask him about. And actually, I have a much clearer uh, viewpoint, and I can be very much more detailed about what I tell people that I practiced when I started bass,
Yeah.
because I was already an adult and I can remember all of that,
Right.
you know. But in my conversations with my dad, I mean, one thing that he would do is he didn't call it practicing, he called it playing.
Yeah.
You
Good.
know, that was one of the things that he did. And he was, it was very important for me to be learning stuff by ear in addition to learning stuff that was on paper,
Good. Smart.
you know. And actually, um, it wasn't until I was, I don't know, I started when I was 6, maybe 11 or 12,
Mhm.
that I really, really started studying other players. So there was a lot of years in there where obviously I was influenced by him,
Mhm.
but that was really my only influence.
Is
And
he
I
a
think,
too?
I'm sorry?
Is he a horn player too?
Yeah, yeah, he was a great saxophone player. Sounded like Lou Donaldson.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, and he loved alto. He really, he liked listening to tenor players, but he himself didn't like tenor. And he was a great flute player. He was a great flute player. I mean, he was a sub Fourth Symphony,
Mm.
in flute. I mean, he was a really great flute player.
Wow. Nice.
And so that's where the, being able to double playing flute and clarinet and the other things. It's, he insisted that I did that because he knew uh, what the music industry is. He knew what the working situation was like,
Yeah.
and he wanted me to be able to uh, carve out a space for myself and sound different and be different and have different capabilities so that I could compete.
Hmm.
But uh, so you were talking about the language. You were talking about speaking the language, and no one tells you which words to say first. You just start saying words.
Right.
Now, obviously, you're not saying those words in a vacuum or from a vacuum or not just out of your own brain. All of that stuff was already happening
Sure. Sure.
at an expert level, not being dumbed down.
Right. Not
And
being dumb, and you're jamming with experts.
yeah,
Right. But here's one of the biggest things that we don't usually allow in music is that when you're learning to talk, whether you say the word right or wrong, we celebrate you anyway.
that's good.
That's big. That's big. You're never told that you're wrong with the language up until you're, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You've been talking that long. You can
Hmm.
call it a blankie. You could be 10 years old saying, "Where's my blankie?" And your mom will say, "Here's your blankie," right? They'll say it wrong with you. Because with kids, we celebrate their effort, not the result,
Mm.
the effort, right? You go to kindergarten and you paint this ugly picture with your hands and paint everywhere. It's probably still on the refrigerator right now.
Yeah.
Not because it's beautiful, but because you're beautiful,
Mm.
right? And because you even try, we're happy, right? If you have a baby, you don't have any kids, right?
I do actually. I've
You
got
do? How old are your kids?
my son is 6.
Oh wow, okay. So imagine you can probably, and this probably happened. Your horn is out, and your 1 or 2 year old goes over and and acts like they're playing the sax, right?
Hmm.
You so happy.
Yep.
The first time they blow through it, as a tone and all that probably sound awful,
Right.
right? But it's the most wonderful sound you've ever heard,
Yeah.
right? You celebrate them, their effort, not in music, not in our music curriculum, right? Whenever you start anything, just about anything, you're going to do it wrong more than you do it right. That's just pretty obvious. But in music, you're told every time you do it wrong. So you hear you're wrong, wrong, wrong over and over more than you hear you're right. So most people quit. They
Mm.
want to play, but they don't want to hear they're wrong all the time. And when we're kids learning to talk, learning to ride a bike, whatever, you don't just hear you're wrong all the time,
Mm.
right? We celebrate you, right? So that's the way I learned to play. I learned to play that way. And even watching my brother Reggie teach, even today, he doesn't tell the students they're wrong, right? And he's so good that he can even make what's wrong about what they're doing sound like the best thing in the world.
Mm.
Right? So he gets the kids playing and appreciating what they're playing, even when it's quote unquote wrong. So Reggie might tell a student, that's real cool. Remember that. Because we're going to need that. But remember that. So, but today, let's try it this way. Right now, let's do it this way.
Right.
Rather than, no, you're wrong. That ain't it. You know,
Mm.
you're learning a C major scale and you put a C sharp in it. Reggie said, whoa, that's cool. Man, that's the note Miles Davis would play. That's a cool note. But remember that note. That's a good note. We're gonna come back to that one. Let's remember that. But right now, let's do it this way. So it makes you feel good about it. You don't even know that it's wrong. And that's how we learn to talk so fast, so free. We all grow up with our own voice. We don't try to. We don't think I gotta sound like my dad or my older brother. We
Mm.
don't even think about, right? In music, we tell you to find your own voice. And I'm like, well, if I gotta go find it, why you teach it out of me, right? I had it when I started, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But your speaking voice, you never had to find it.
Mm.
And out of all the humans in the world, you don't sound like nobody else, right? To me, that's the method that I try to follow as much as possible when I teach music. It doesn't all translate, doesn't all transfer over, but I want it to be as free as possible, like that. And I know that not everybody grew up like us. Not everybody had a caring uh, sibling, parent that got us started right away.
Right.
Right? A few years after birth, we're in it, right? Because your dad may have started you at 6, but you were exposed to it from birth, right? Not everybody has that, so everybody can't learn the way we did. But there is still a lot we can share with them. That attitude, that freedom, that acceptance that we had growing up. We can share that with our students so that they stick with it. Right? The teacher needs to be good enough to make even their wrong stuff work so that they feel good about
Hmm. Yeah, that's good. I was reflecting back with my own son in his use of the language, the English language, and one of the first words that he learned was cookie.
it. Yeah,
Which is a common word for
right.
that kids learn,
Yeah.
and he was improvising with that word.
Mm.
So he heard the word. There was some reason why he gravitated to the word, but then he would use it in all of these different contexts because he was trying it out, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he would point at stuff, cookie, cookie, cookie,
Yeah.
cookie,
Yeah.
No, none of that stuff is a cookie.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. He was trying to figure out and how to calibrate where that word fits in.
Right. Right.
And obviously, if I scolded him when he pointed at a water bottle
Uh-huh.
and said cookie,
Yeah.
then that's going to cause him to not want to take a risk and not experiment with those words.
Absolutely. Yeah, Sean, I don't know if this is true, but I was told that 98% of people, and it could have been 89. My brain mixes, but either way, the number's too high. But I was told that it was either 89% or 98% of people who study music, they quit within the first 2 years,
Mm.
right? So now I ask myself, okay, why? Is music that difficult? That is too hard for everyone? And I think, okay, 7 letters. No, it can't be that. Right? 12 notes. Can't be
Oh,
that, right? If you
right.
play bass, 5 lines, 4 spaces, there's only a few rhythms you'll ever have to read if you're a bass player. Can't be that. So what is it that makes people quit? It's how we teach it. Comes down to the method that we use to teach it. In the normal curriculum, right, people and when they're starting out, they're wrong too much. And who wants to continue hearing that they're wrong? Right?
Yeah.
That's my thought about it.
So it seems to me like it's almost like a literal a literal example of music chose you.
Well, or either my brothers chose me, but
Yeah,
exactly, it wasn't something that I chose.
yeah.
You know, it was when I was in third grade, fourth grade. You know, that was in '73 and '74. Now I had already been gigging. I was gigging before I started kindergarten. I was lucky to be in a band playing gigs.
Man.
You know, when I Reggie said I turned 6 on our tour opening for Curtis Mayfield on his Superfly tour, going up the West Coast, right? But that's all I knew. So I didn't think I was going to grow up and be a musician, right? You know, I mean, it's like I'm gonna grow up and breathe air. You know, breathing air is just what you do. You don't think about it. So a weekend gig is just what I did. I didn't think about it. All my friends, all the boys were going to be policemen, firemen. Early '70s, that's what we were going to be.
Mm.
You know, nowadays, maybe it's a basketball player, football player, or whatever. But when a couple of my brothers, three of my brothers, went to college in the early, the mid '70s, mid to late '70s, '77 or so, they went to college for a few years, and with our parents' blessing, they ended up dropping out. And that was when it hit me that, wait a minute, I can just do this, play music. So I'm now like, I don't know, sixth grade, seventh grade. And I'm like, I can just keep playing music, like as a job and like, you know, a career. And I was like, whoa, that's cool, you know? And so there were blessings to that and there were curses. The curses, as I got through high school, I just kind of coasted. You know, I didn't push myself to really work hard and take calculus and all that stuff. Mom and dad would not let us get bad grades. No, no way. You know, we couldn't get bad grades. But you know, I look back now and I think I had a half a year of algebra. That was it. You know, my senior year, you know, I had to take the normal classes that you have to take, but the rest was choir, orchestra, uh, you know, whatever else. My mom made us all learn to type, so I had to take typing for half a year. And now I look back and I wish I would have pushed myself academically a lot more. But you know, I've still been able to be successful. You know, I learned how to be well. My Our parents, whenever we did a paper, mom was really good at writing. She had studied it in college, so she made sure we knew writing, grammar. She made sure we could speak well and things like that. So there was a lot that I did get, but you know, academically through school, I just kind of coasted as I found out I can just keep playing music. You know, so you know, I look back on myself on that and wish I had pushed a little harder.
Yeah, my family, my parents, my dad in particular. Yeah, he wasn't taking any bogus grades either
Yeah.
in school, and um, and matter of fact, uh, so I started early, and in order for me to still be engaged, I was playing in. So let's see. So when I was in first grade, I was playing in the sixth grade band. In second grade, I was playing in the eighth grade band. In third grade, I was playing in the high school band.
Right.
But my dad wouldn't allow me to play in these groups because he knew how much I enjoyed this, of course. He wouldn't allow it if my grades were slipping.
Absolutely.
And so that was always the line. It's like, look, you need to be getting all A's or we're not doing this,
Yeah.
you know. And so definitely there. You know, one thing I was wondering about because, saxophone, alto saxophone, which is the horn I started on, and 6 is actually too early. And you can ask my orthodontist about that because your teeth are too soft and stuff is still figuring out where it's going to be. And it's a lot of pressure. And so I ended up getting braces and stuff, Now, it's funny because the orthodontist actually was telling us that he didn't think it was related to saxophone playing. But then you look at, all my other siblings and all their teeth are straight. But I was the only one with, with a significant overbite. So, but anyhow, and I started playing on old Kahn alto, one of those horns from like the 1920s, really heavy horn, built like a tank. So my dad made a wooden stand that could support the weight of the horn.
Mm.
You put it on top of a piano bench so that I could walk up to the horn and it wasn't hanging around my neck. So, reason I'm thinking about this is one thing that we often don't think about is like what it is to play an instrument like a bass
Yeah.
or something that's heavy when you're so young.
Yeah.
And did you have a special instrument,
Now,
or how did that work?
yeah, the first instrument that I can remember playing, and it's mainly because there's pictures of it. Reggie took two of the strings off his guitar, an extra guitar. So my first bass was really just a guitar, four-string guitar.
Huh. Yeah.
Literally, just four other strings, still a guitar, neck, everything. But I played bass on those low strings.
Hmm.
And then I don't have it here. Um, my first real bass was it looked like Paul McCartney's Hofner, the Beatle bass.
Oh yeah.
It was a Univox, and I still have it. If anyone gets a chance to see my record called "What Did He Say," my second record,
Hmm.
I'm wearing it. I'm standing in my front yard, I think, with my bass down my back, and it's that bass. I've got photos of it, but it's a really small bass. I don't know what the scale is, but really small. Still bigger. I think when I got it, I was taller than me, and it was heavy. And so, sometimes after I get tired, I would sit down, either
Hmm.
on the front of the stage or on a chair and play it. But you're right. When you're young and you're dealing with big instruments, nowadays, like I've got a bass over there that's, this long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nowadays, you can get instruments really small, and they're being smarter, and it's better for young kids. But they didn't have that when we were young.
Yeah. And so what projects have you worked on? What bands have you played in, and what have been some of your more favorite experiences?
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. I'm first. I just gotta say how lucky I am to have gotten a chance to do so many wonderful things. And not all of them are like world known things. Just I've gotten a chance to do some wonderful fun things with people. Um, some of the things that might seem impressive is like, I've always been a Stanley Clark fan as a kid. I met him when I was 9. So even today, if I see Stanley, I feel 9 again, and it's an
mm,
excited feel. I get excited. But I got a chance to record with him and Marcus Miller, and I got to do it as an equal, like as their musical brother, not
mm,
the 9-year-old that I feel like I am when I'm around them. And the band is called SMV, Stanley, Marcus, and Victor. We recorded a record and toured for about 2 years. And that is just like a dream come true. I can remember literally being the first day in the studio, and I'm looking at the board, and one fader has some tape on it that says Stanley. The next fader on it says Marcus, and the third fader had my name on it. Man, I'm taking pictures and sending it to my wife and my friend.
mm.
Look at this, just amazing. So one of the main things that really makes me happy is that I've gotten a chance to play with many of my heroes, like Hubert Laws, John McLaughlin, Chick Corea, like I said, Stanley and Marcus, Bootsy Collin, Larry Graham, Prince. People that I grew up listening to. I didn't get to play with Michael Jackson, but I was on a show that the family did, a show called the Jackson Family Honors. It was a thing they did in Vegas, and it was a television special, and they had a bunch of acts on it, and Bruce Hornsby was on there. And Bruce is from Virginia, not far from where my brothers and I are from. So I got to play with Bruce Hornsby on this show, and you go to the rehearsals, and Michael Jackson's over there, and Jermaine, the bass player's over there. Just,
Yeah.
I mean, like, wow. And then, and then there's a bunch of people that I'm honored to have been able to do things with that you will never know their names, you know. But like Spike Lee, we all know Spike Lee as a movie producer, but his dad, his name is Bill Lee,
Mm-hmm.
amazing upright bass player. So Bill Lee's sister, Spike Lee's aunt, her name was Consuela Lee Moorhead, amazing pianist. And she used to teach in Hampton, Virginia, at the time it was Hampton Institute, and so that's why my brother went there because she is heavy. I mean, just like theory, jazz, knew all the stories. And then the next year she moved and taught at Norfolk State College in Norfolk, Virginia, and she brought in this guy named John Shacklet. Now John Shacklet was heavy, left-handed guitar player, jazz. Grew up with Wes Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
Bad man. And so I'm still a little kid, but they're teaching Reggie and my brothers, and they're coming home with this knowledge and giving it to me in ways that I can understand. I remember at this time when Reggie was going to college, Van Halen and these guitar players, Ingwe Malmsteen, they were becoming famous. So Reggie's doing all this two-hand tapping stuff. And John Shacklet, this guitar player, he's like, yeah, man, yeah, when we was kids, yeah, Wes used to play like that. But every note Wes would play would be a chord, you know. And Reggie's playing fast, and he's saying every note's a chord. What? So he started showing Reggie how to take them jazz solos with chords and stuff. And I was like, wow. So these are names you'll never really know, but these guys were geniuses, legends in our minds, and us brothers and a lot of other people would not be the musicians that we are without these people. So there's a lot of people like that are just as important to me, if not more, than the Stanley Clarks, the Chick Coreas, and they are valuable and popular and special to me. But also, I got asked to play in a band with a banjo player. And I was like, banjo? That ain't even a real instrument. What are we gonna do with a banjo? Hey, of course I didn't say that, but
Right.
when I met Bela Fleck, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I never heard. Not only had I never heard banjo like this, I'd never heard music like this.
Yeah.
He was writing some strange stuff, right? So to be there at the beginning of Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, to be one of the founding members, to be one of the reasons that the band sounds the way it does, and by no means am I taking credit for any of it except my part of it, and that Bela saw something in me, and he had just when we first met, he said, "Man, I want you to play on this television show with me," and he said, "I just met this harmonica player, this guy Howard Levy plays harmonica and keyboards." And a lot of people didn't know Howard plays everything. He can play alto, sax, tenor. He can play
Mm.
mandolin. I saw him on tour with Kenny Loggins playing mandolin. This dude plays everything, but he plays harmonica in a way no one had ever played. Finding all the notes on an
Yeah.
instrument that don't have all the notes. So Bela had just met him at the Winnipeg Folk Festival. And then Bela said, I'm just looking for a drummer. You know any drummers? I was like, oh, yeah, I do. You got to meet my brother. And we got together for this television show, and we were supposed to rehearse, but a lightning storm hit Bela's house in Nashville, which meant no electric drums, no bass, right? So we played with Roy Beaton on the box. We practiced with Roy Beaton on the box. I was playing Bela's acoustic guitar. Bela had his banjo, and Howard was playing on Bela's out of tune upright piano. And finally said, "Look, let's just go up to Louisville where the show's going to be. Let's just go to Kentucky a day early, and we'll practice a sound check." So we scrapped the rehearsal, and the first time we really got to play together was at sound check the next day. And Howard, all he saw was Roy holding this contraption with the power off at Baylor's house. So he had no idea, like, how is this thing going to play drums?
Mm.
But at the sound check when we played together, it was on. It was on. And here we are 30 something years later still doing it. So that's been one of the highlights of my life, my musical life, of my whole life, of getting to work with these guys. And that's not even to say my brothers. Of course, it all started there. So, I've just been very, very lucky. I've had some of my heroes. Chick Corea believed in me more than I believed in myself when he asked me one year he was turning 75, and Chick did 8 weeks at the Blue Note in New York, 15 different bands over 8 weeks, and he hired me to play the last week, which was Mahavishnu meets Return to Forever. So Chick Corea and Lenny White, John McLaughlin on guitar, and me on bass. Now it should have been Stanley Clarke on bass because that's Return to Forever. But I don't know why Stanley wasn't there, but I got the call, happy to do it. I grew up on this music. Let's do it. But then a few days, the week before, um, he was supposed to do Light as a Feather music. I think it was Avishai Cohen on bass, Hubert Laws on flute, Ravi Coltrane on tenor, Lenny White on drums, and Chick. But I think it was Avishai Cohen on bass, upright bass. He couldn't get his visa from Israel. So last minute, Chick calls me, "Can you come in and play bass?" And when I found out what it was, I said, "That's upright bass." I had my manager Danette. I said, "Call Chick back. Maybe he knows another Victor who plays upright, and he got the wrong guy." I said, "But let him know upright is not what I do." And Chick called back and said, "I know. I want you to do it." So it was like he believed in me in a way that forced me to try to believe in myself that way. So I got an upright, started practicing. I practiced all weekend because the gig was in 4 days. He sent me the gig was on Wednesday. He sent me the music Friday night. So I practiced Saturday and Sunday at home. It was Thanksgiving. I practiced. My mother-in-law's over there. I sneaked down here, practice. I'm thinking, man, I think I'm gonna be able to do this. I think I can do it. I can do it. And then Sunday, I got to fly to Boston to teach at Berkeley on Sunday, and I get an email from Chick. And to make the story short, we found out he sent me the wrong music. So 2 days I've been practicing the wrong music. So I just say,
Man.
send it to me. And I got the music just in time to get it into my phone and to print it out. And I hopped on the plane and I put it in my ears. And I didn't even look at the music yet. I just listened to it. And it's music I knew, Spain and all kinds of other stuff. Um, and I got to Boston late after midnight, so I couldn't practice. I didn't even have an upright with me. Couldn't practice. Got up the next morning, Monday, and I had to teach. And I'd done about 6 o'clock. Steve Bailey, the chair of the bass department, my longtime friend, he gave me his office and a very hard to play upright bass, which I complained about, but then I realized he was doing me a favor by making me practice with a hard bass, so it'd be easier on the gig. But I practiced from about 6:30 to about 2 in the morning in his office. It was my first time getting to play this music. So then I taught the next day to about 6. Had to hop on a train to New York. I got into my room after midnight. Still couldn't practice. So Wednesday afternoon, I go to early afternoon. I go to sound check, which is rehearsal. I get to play the music for the first time with everybody, and then the gig that night on upright. Right? But I was, for the most part, going off of Chick's faith in me, and knowing that upright is not my thing. I said, look, I'm not an upright player, but I'm a musician. I am a bass player. And I think Chick called me to make his music feel good, not to solo up here in thumb position, not to be Stanley Clarke. And so I my best to make his music feel good, and good or bad, I'm a better musician because of it. And I thank him for it. And now I'm a better upright player too.
Something that is um, amazing to me about you is it seems that you're perpetually on a journey. Like you are trying to get better. You're trying to use every experience to improve something, to tweak something, to, you know, um, and as many musical experiences and as tremendously influential as you've been as a player, um, to hear you with the kind of passion talk about this story that you just talked about, that's very yeah, that's great. I mean, that's
It really is, Sean. I mean, sitting here, I can still feel the energy of excitement of getting the call, practicing for it, the first gig, the third gig where I saw Ron Carter's wife in the audience,
mm.
and I'm hoping that her husband Ron is not with
Yeah.
her. I hope she's alone, but she don't go out alone. So I know he's there, and oh no, all of that. But the cool thing is, the biggest part of being nervous is excitement, right? You're nervous because you want to do it,
Yeah.
right? Like your mom say, go clean your room. You don't get nervous because you don't want to do it. You get bummed out or whatever.
Mm.
But I was excited, and I can still recall that excitement,
Mm.
you know. And I've been playing so long. You and I have been playing so long. On a normal gig, we don't get nervous. We just do what we do. Right? It's just what it is. But I got a chance to be nervous. That was
Yeah.
fun, man.
Yeah.
That was fun. I mean, and it was real nerves. I mean,
Yeah.
but but check it out, Sean. On my left is Lenny White on the drums. Standing close to me, the Blue Note stage is close, is small. Right here is Ravi Coltrane,
Yeah.
John Coltrane's son,
Yeah.
right? And at rehearsal, I'm hearing him talk about the new John Coltrane movie that's about to come out. Oh yeah, they sent me a pre-copy and blah blah blah. Right next to him is Hubert Laws on flute, right? And then next to Hubert Laws is Chick Corea
Yeah.
at the Blue Note, right? So it's easy to get overwhelmed and like a deer in headlights freeze. Or you can go the other way and let it raise you up to the challenge.
Mm.
And that's what I did. Oh my goodness. That's what I did. And I had Lenny White in my ear say, hey, on this song, here's what Stanley would do. Just do this. One song, he would say, look, on this song, during this solo, think cameo, think candy. Doom, 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 goom, goom, doom, goom, goom,
Mm-hmm.
goom. He said, but play the notes Chick gave you. But that's the rhythm. And at this one spot, man, he and I would look at each other and we're playing Chick's song. I can't remember what song it was, but we go into the rhythm of Candy. And it was funky, man. And we had this little contact. And Lenny just really helped me through the whole gig. He would talk to me, between sets, everything. It was great.
You know, a couple things. You're talking about playing in a situation that um, is a new experience, a new situation, and the generosity of other musicians that are willing to fill in your gaps and to try to help you. It's not always that the situation that happens that way. So something that I've been fortunate to do over the last few years, and I'm not a member of the band, but I've been getting calls to play with the Count Basie Orchestra,
Nice. Wow.
and everybody in the band is very warm, and there's that whole vibe, and nobody plays the blues like the Basie band, so that whole thing is there. And the way that those gigs are, I remember the first gig I did with them. I mean, we had like a sound check,
Yeah.
a bit of a sound check, and that was the rehearsal. You don't get to keep the music. You don't. So I'm sight reading the music, and the Basie band. There's a way to play phrases that's different than any other band. So you could have the same sheet music from another band, and it would be interpreted completely differently. And then also there's just a bunch of stuff that they just changed stuff that's on the page from what's on the page. And the whole gig, the lead alto in tenor one, I was playing alto two in the band. They would be, hey man, watch out for this, and hey, check this out right here. We're going to play this way. During sound check, there was a couple things that band plays like, a lot of tempos. A lot of tempos. And it's like, well, there's a couple things on this soli section that are weird, So, so the artistic director would say, hey, let's run this so Sean has a chance to play this. They don't have to do that.
Right.
They don't have to do that. And they could just let me fall on my face.
Sure.
They could just do that.
But the smart ones know that if you fall on your face, it reflects them as a whole.
Right.
Smart ones know that.
Right.
Right. And in many cases, they've been in your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, the people you're working with don't want to see you fail.
Right.
But again, I have to say, for the most part.
Right.
There are those few out there that seem like they want to sabotage you.
Yep.
Right.
Now you were talking about nerves a little bit, which is it's almost a topic that if you're a seasoned musician and you admit that you get nervous,
Mm-hmm.
it's not many people will be willing to admit that.
Sure.
Put it that way.
Right.
And but I tell my students all the time, and it's to the extent that I've spent a lot of time preparing for something, the magnitude of the event, the opportunity, the magnitude of the opportunity. Yeah, I'm going to be nervous. I mean, being nervous just means that you're alive. It means that you care about what it is that you're doing.
Natural. Right.
And I like the way that you put it, that, here you were in a situation where you get to be nervous.
Yeah.
Like it's an opportunity,
Sure.
rather than something to dread.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, most people are out there. I can't say most. A lot of us are out there complaining about it.
Yeah.
'Cause we're so comfortable and so used to it. But and it's easy to get that used to it. And with Bela Fleck and the Flecktones touring at the time, probably 25 years or so, easy to get comfortable. I can remember one time in my life where I didn't have a gig,
Mm.
and that was in the '80s when my brothers and I, threw a bad record deal, for the first time, my brothers weren't playing together. And that's really the only time I can really remember in life not having a gig. I've been so lucky, so fortunate, but you can learn how to be lucky. Being
Mm.
lucky ain't really lucky when you look at what is backing it.
I see.
It's not like I just found $1 million or a bunch of talent laying on the side of the road, and whose is this? Okay, now I'm talented. It don't
Right.
happen that way. Now maybe I was lucky because I was born to the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
But the rest, you got to do it. You got to put in some work, a lot of pleasure. But it's easy to get comfortable and get complacent. And as much as I still enjoy everything, every gig I do, they don't all make me nervous,
Mm.
And so all of a sudden I got to feel that, like, whoa, oh my goodness. Well, it was exciting. I mean, it was so much fun. And I remember it also the first time that I got to play with Chick Corea, and I was subbing for John Patitucci in the
Yeah.
electric band. And so that was exciting too.
Yeah.
Dave Weckl here, Eric Marienthal there, Frank Gambale way to my left, Chick over here. you know, and I have to end up telling myself all the things I tell other people. Just be you, man. He called you. He could have called anyway. He called you, and he called you to be you. That's what I'm telling myself. Because I was gonna try to play six string bass in that gig,
Hmm.
and that's just too many strings for me. And then I heard myself on my shoulder talking to myself. You ain't John Patitucci. Don't go in there and try to be John Patitucci. Go in there and do what you do. You know. And so that was the way I approached it, and that's what I did. And I got that call whenever John couldn't do it, because now John he was out with Wayne Shorter. So I got to do the electric band quite a few times, and I played it like me. And Chick, another one. Chick is one of the most gracious musicians you'll ever meet or play with. There be time like I'm not a soloist like I can blow through changes. I'm not one of those guys. Maybe one day, hopefully before my musical life ends, I'll learn how to do it. But there was one song that like if I'm on stage and I'm struggling through a song solo, right? The song part, the bass parts I can get through. Plus they're written on a page and I can read, so I can do that. But the solo is me. I remember a few nights I'm soloing and I'm just struggling through it. So my second chorus, you know, chicken. I look at Chick and he knows I'm about to end it. He looked back at me and said, "That means keep going."
Hmm.
Right? But then he starts feeding me things. Oh yeah. Oh nice. He's helping me out, you know. Because a lot of the time it's like Chick is kind of soloing with you when you solo. He's like a kind of guy that answers and stuff. But then he starts leading me and helping me out, so I can go a couple more choruses, you know.
Hmm.
And it was really really nice to play with him. And in rehearsal, he's just it's like he wants you to succeed. Bela Fleck totally like that. But it was nice because I was nervous with Chick too, you know. And I'm stepping in a place where Jocko has stood here. John Patitucci has stood here. Dave Holland has stood in this chair. So many greats have stood here, and now it's me. If you're not nervous, something wrong with you,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
right? Now
yeah,
it's how you use that nervousness.
yeah.
That's the key. And that to me is what I have a choice or control over. I don't know that I can choose to be nervous or not,
Hmm.
but I do have choice in how I'm going to deal with it. And I don't allow it to paralyze me. If I feel myself getting paralyzed, then a lot of people will start trying to play too much. I play too little. I'm playing a bass. I can play whole notes. I'm way down here. Like when I play the upright gig, I don't go up here. I can't do that. I stay right down here. A couple times I get excited. I might try to go up there and it says, nope, nope, come right back down here, you know,
Hmm.
and do what I know I can do. So the more nervous I get, the simpler I get.
That's a sign of maturity. I know um, in my dealing with nerves, as a younger player, my tendency always was to overplay. It was to play
Oh,
even more stuff, even more complex rhythms, even more, dense stuff. That was my tendency, and of course, was to rush, and that's a common tendency that happens when you're nervous is to play on top of the beat, and and I had to learn how to calm down. Okay, let me just give you some pocket, just give some eighth notes. Let's see how this is feeling.
yeah.
You know, let me intentionally lay back. I know my tendency is going to be on the top of the beat, so let me intentionally lay back to stay where I need to stay. Um, and I think and something I tell my students all the time is, you have to know what your tendencies are when you get nervous. If your tendencies, and I share with them some common tendencies,
Hmm.
but you have to know what they are, and then you
Yeah.
have to devise strategies to counteract those tendencies.
Hmm. So how do you find out what they are if you avoid those situations?
Right? You can't. You have to embrace those situations.
Embrace them and seek them out.
That's right.
Seek them out. I got a chance to play the national anthem at a New York Knicks basketball game in Madison Square Garden.
Well,
Okay, so I'm like, yeah, this will be cool. And then it dawned on me, okay, I can't improvise this. This is a song not some people know. This song, this song everybody knows. Not only do they know it, they're gonna stand up,
that's right.
take their hats off, and put their hand over their heart and sing along.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, already the nerves, and then they send you, it's gotta be, I forget, I think it's like under 90 seconds. It's gotta be here,
Right. 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 Right.
right? So here I am, you know, I have to record it and send it to them. They have to approve it, right? And I remember a few days before I had to perform it, knowing I'm going to be nervous. One of the first things I did is as I learned it, I put my mind in that place and imagining the people. Then I had to go to a gymnastics competition that my son was in. And my wife, my son, and either one or two of his teammates, we were all in the same hotel room. So I stood up and played it for each one of them. Played it for my son. They all listening. And then I regrouped. I played it for my son's friend. They all listened. But I was putting myself in performance mentality so I could try to feel the nerves. Because I didn't want it to be the first time once it was, once I was there.
Right.
And I was still nervous, right? And then, they gave me this, there was a new Knicks jacket that was coming out that they were going to sell, right? It hadn't even been out yet, and they gave me one.
Oh man.
But they said, we want you to play wearing this jacket.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's a big, leather on the sleeves, like a big college letterman jacket.
Oh yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, but now I'm telling me all the things I tell everyone. I'm the musician, not the bass. I should be able to play the bass, with one leg behind my head, whatever, just I can do this. You know, they hired me to be me. This is what I'm gonna do. And I got through it. Did I mess up? Yeah. So what? I got through it. People applauded. I got to do it. And the history books can't erase that.
Hmm.
And mistakes or none, I'm better now because I went through it. So yeah, seek out the situations that can make you nervous. I tell people too, if you got a performance and all you got is a dog or a parrot, you perform for that dog or that parrot. Just to get your mentality into performance, you got to get out of practice mentality. Because in practice, if you mess up, you'll stop. You got to get into performance mentality and put an audience in front of you so that you can work on those and then record it and videotape it so that you can see what your nervous tendencies are, as you said. You may not notice that you make a weird face or that you're not facing the audience. You may not realize all that stuff. So you record it and you video it and you watch it as an audience member so that you really learn who you are.
So, we've used this word a few times, practice, and there's a contradistinction, to performance or playing versus practicing. And I will be the first person to admit, and I tell my students this all the time, I don't like to practice.
I'm the same way. I'm with you.
But I love to play, you
Right.
know. And now I realize that if I don't practice, that there are several goals that I have that I won't ever be able to get to. And so that ends up being the motivation to practice. I don't always, well, most of the time I don't want to practice, and most of the time I don't necessarily enjoy the experience, but I always feel better for it.
Sure. I'm the
Yeah.
same way.
Yeah.
It's
So,
necessary.
so let me ask you, what kinds of things these days have you been practicing, or do you practice, or do you play, or uh, what music are you working on that kind of causes you to have to, you know, address maybe something that you're still working out?
Sure. Well, right now physically, I'm dealing with a condition that's called focal dystonia, dystonia, dystonia or dystonia. Um, all people in different parts of life get it, but for musicians, they may call it musician's dystonia.
Mm.
So since I've been very vocal about it, I know some flute players that have what's called embouchure dystonia. Some have dystonia in your hands. Some people get it in their neck. I've met a few singers that have it in their throat. But dystonia is a weird physical and neurological condition that tells your a part of your body to do the wrong thing. It's weird. About 1 in 200 musicians get it,
Mm.
unfortunately. And basically, my fingers are fine, my brain is fine, but as soon as I pick up a bass or even start to think about playing, these three fingers start to curl into a ball at the thought of playing the bass, right?
Mm.
So to put my fingers on a bass neck, right? These three fingers already are trying to curl under the neck. So to get them to just like do re mi do re mi fa so is difficult. Just a simple scale like that is difficult because like this finger's already curled. This one is pressing down on the string so hard because it's trying to do that. Right?
Mm.
So normal playing for me right now is difficult. So I'm not doing a lot of playing exercises except the exercises that are retraining this connection,
Mm.
which is a lot of slow motion. It's a lot of things off of the instrument. I found a woman, my wife rather, found a woman in Spain who's amazing, and she's like getting into the deep parts of the brain that she thinks causes these things. You know, like
Mhm.
even like trauma patients, and you know what's causing these fears or trauma or causing the fingers to respond differently. So I'm going through a lot of things and taking every opportunity not to play the bass and work on other things, especially now that we're off. I
Mm.
cannot play because what's happening, I would do things, but then I'd have a gig that night and I kind of like undo it. So right now I'm not playing a whole lot. But what I did do, I got commissioned, I think is the word, to write a concerto.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I wrote a three movement concerto, about 23 minutes worth of music for orchestra and bass. And it's the second one I've written, but I co wrote the first one with a wonderful woman named Connie Ellisor out of Nashville. She approached me and I said, well, I'd like to write it with you. And she really did the bulk of the work. You know, I would play melodies and send them to her, or we would sit down together and I would listen to what she did, and I would say, "Oh, it'd be cool if this happened, whatever." So she did a lot of the work, but on this one, I did it from the ground up by myself. And Sean, I had so much fun. Oh, it was just what a beautiful experience. I'm so sad that the experience of writing is over. You know,
Mm.
I just get into the experience of the when your brain and your whole being just feels creative and it's just pouring out of you and you get an idea and that one little idea expands and you know you just feel so alive. I know you've experienced it. And this was in a whole new world, you know. And I have a deadline. I had to get it done and so I wrote it and so much fun. So that was a whole new journey for me. And now, you know, the MIDI instruments sound so good. you get to hear your idea immediately.
Yeah.
You know, but I got to really, practice being creative. Even, there's ways of that I found to even practice being creative, and so that was the latest thing that I got to do. But the thing I'm currently doing right now is finishing my second book.
Mm.
I wrote a book about music and life called The Music Lesson, and now the sequel, at least so far, is called The Spirit of Music, and it continues the story but gets into some different parts of life and parts of music. So I'm in the process of that, but we're getting close to the end, and I can feel that sadness coming. Oh no, it's almost over. So I have to find something else after that. Maybe I have to get my doctorate.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of institutions that would give you an honorary doctorate. I mean,
Go old. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
oh, you are, uh, again, you've been so tremendously influential, and thank you for being so generous with information in this interview. Um, and again, one thing about you, I remember you came to you came to Columbus and did a you did a master class. It was you've done master classes both at Guitar Center and Sam Ash. I think this was one at Sam Ash. And I came, and I said something, I said, I raised my hand to ask a question, and I said, hey, um, blase blase, and I ended off by saying something about how humble I thought you were. And um, the the mark of someone that is humble is that they will attempt to deflect even the notion that they are humble. Um, but you are uh, humble doesn't mean that uh, you don't know what you're capable of doing,
Right.
that you don't know what you've accomplished. It's not like you just that stuff just is erased from your brain. That's not what it means. It just means that uh, you're willing to share your flaws.
Sure.
Even I mean that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, and yeah, I got plenty. If I bring my wife down here.
well, all of us do. All of us do. But I think in your situation, you could either you could either uh, try to protect a persona that radiates some sort of perfection or something, or you could show people, hey, this is how all of this stuff actually works,
Yeah.
and I'm not perfect. I'm still working on X, Y, and Z, and therefore actually make people feel like they actually even have a chance to get to where you are.
Absolutely.
And so I so appreciate that you're willing to do that.
Thank you for that. But that's what you're doing. That's what people did for us.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm as good as I am because of Stanley, Larry Graham, Marcus, Mingus, Jocko, right? I know that I'm standing on their shoulders, and our parents wouldn't let us have an inflated ego.
Yeah.
It just my parents got rid of that in us when very young. But they also taught us to know who we were. We
Yeah.
knew our worth because they knew they were at the risk of sounding offensive or whatever. I'll just say it is that they knew what five black boys were facing in the 60s and 70s. As we grew up and they were no longer, they knew what we might be facing, living in a society that didn't support us back, right?
Yeah.
That possibility, right? So they made sure we knew our worth, right? And a big part of what people think is humble is acting like you're not that good.
Yeah.
And none of my brothers will do that. Like if you say, "Man, Victor, you're so good," I'm supposed to say, "Well, no, man. No, man." That's a lie. I know that I'm good, right? Our parents told us we're good. You're good. You know, my parents would say, "You guys are already successful. The rest of the world, they just don't know it yet." Right?
Mm.
But in the same sentence, she would say, "But you ain't better than anybody else." Right? Being good doesn't mean you're better. Because no matter how good people think I am on the bass, if they want you, Sean Thunder Wallace, to play bass, I'm not good enough to be you. Right? I don't care if you're a beginner on the bass and they want you to play bass. I'm not good enough to be you. So for me, that evens us out. We're all good at being us, at being you. You're the only you, you're the best you, and that'll always be, right? But just because you're great doesn't diminish my greatness.
Mm.
Just because I'm great doesn't diminish yours, right? And I was lucky enough to learn that very young. But yeah, I do, and all my brothers, we recognize our greatness. Cause because mom, who was very, very religious, parents, and I'll say something that might be offensive to someone, but I'm just gonna paraphrase my mom. We're great first, not because of what we do. What we do is the easy part. Mom and dad would say, as much as them boys play music, they should be good. He said that don't make them special,
Yeah.
you know. But we're special because of what mom would say, what God gave us,
Mm.
right? And we each have a fingerprint. We each have fingerprints that have never been here in the history of humans, and our fingerprint won't ever be here again in the future of humans. That's given to you. That's your specialty right there. That's your ego, not the ego that says I'm better, but the ego that says I got something no one else has,
Yeah.
right? And imagine if, like, think about this in the history of humankind and the future of humankind, past, present, future, this has never been here and will never be here again, right? So even if I do nothing, I can sit on my couch for 100 years. You can't take this victory, this gift away, right? The biggest race, lottery, contest ever choose to enter, I've already won one of them, the biggest one,
Mm.
just by being chosen. And here's my prize, that I got something that's never been here. Now imagine if this was a diamond. I got a jewel, a piece of gold that's never been here, will never be again. Imagine how much that would be worth, right? Well, we all got it. The thing that we forget, the reason rather we forget about it, is because everybody's got it, right? So we're not
Mm.
all mediocre. We're all great, right? They don't know why our heart beats. They don't know where our mind is. There's so much about humans. They're trying to get computers to be like us. We're amazing. But with that amazingness is something that we get called choice. As humans, again, I don't know if bees, flies, and birds, I don't know if they have the same choice humans do. But we get choice as to what to do with this specialness. And
Mm.
to me, that's what makes it even more special, right? You went on to become a doctor, working at a college to where you get to teach the next group of special people. To me, that makes your specialness even more. I'm doing the same thing. And if I do it with a certain attitude, people call me humble. People call me great or whatever. That makes it more special, right? It doesn't make it more special than anyone else that's sitting on a couch doing nothing. It doesn't, right? Because I'm only special if there's people not doing what I do. you know, that's why
Mm.
what I do seems special, because other people aren't doing it. So I'm indebted to them too, you know? So that's the cool thing for me, is what's really being humble, is being truthful, is being honest. When you tell me I'm great, that's your opinion. I say thank you. When you tell me I suck, that's your opinion. I say thank you, right? Because you're only seeing who you are. You're seeing through your eyes, your intellect. your vision, your heart. That's you see. So when you put
Mm.
me up on a pedestal, I say thank you because that's going to give you the better chance of coming up there. You're showing me what you can see,
Mm.
right? And if you say, man, you suck, that's you too. I say thank you, right? But I want you to see more in yourself because I know you're seeing yourself. And if I fight against you, you're going to keep seeing yourself that way, right? But if I can boost you up and say, thank you, man, I appreciate your honesty, whatever, all of a sudden you think differently about me and you're growing, right?
Mm.
That's my outlook on it. So, you know, I look at being humble in a different way than most people because my parents looked at it in a different way. I'll share you one story. And I was teaching a clinic. This is long after my mom had died. Actually, not long after, a few years after she had died. I was doing a clinic at a store in Washington, D.C. It used to be called Chuck Levin's. I forget what it's called now. But I'm doing a clinic and I'm sitting there, and out the corner of my eye, I see my mom walk through the door. And I like kind of freak out, but it was my mom's sister.
Mm.
Just so happened she lived walking distance and she walked into my clinic. This is cool, man. So she's sitting in the back and I'm talking and I'm always quoting my parents and I'm always quoting my brothers. And she raises her hand. So I know what that means, right? So she says, I got a story to tell you about your mama. And I said, okay. And she says, and this, is a great story. Tears me up just to think of it. Mom, she said we were having a family reunion at our house in Virginia, and it was the middle of the night, 3 in the morning or whatever. My mom's up in the kitchen, just like pacing back and forth, doing stuff, cleaning up, talking to herself. And at our house was not big. It was 3 bedroom, kitchen, living room, um, but there'd be 60, 70 people at our house for a family reunion. And so there's people sleeping on the floor. Us brothers, we always give up our beds. We were sleeping under the table, wherever, back porch. And my mom's sister, Aunt Ann Lois, my Aunt Ann said, "Well, Dad, what's going on? What's wrong?" And apparently my mom was upset because the neighbors were upset at her and getting on her because us brothers had a big gig at the Coliseum or the Scope in Norfolk or whatever, and my mom didn't go. And they getting on her. You didn't see your boys. Your boys so good. You didn't want to go support your boys. And she was and her thing. She told my aunt. She said, my boys ain't special because they go play music. She said, anybody play like, as long as they have, they should be good. She said, I think my boys are special because they'll go play the Coliseum and then come home and sleep on the floor and get their beds away. He said, that's what makes them special, right?
Mm.
And that was the way they raised us. Playing music is what we do, but it's who you are that makes you special.
Oh man, that is a great story, man.
Yeah.
That is a great story. Oh man, thank you so much, Victor,
You're welcome.
for your time and your energy.
I thank you.
Um,
I thank you. Thank you for
um,
playing on my record way back then, man.
oh yeah,
Soul Circus.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm also on Palmer Street.
Aura, because we did two songs and I
Yeah,
saved one of them.
yeah.
Next record. Yeah. But man, you played a solo so cool, man. You played some lines so cool I think it was on Palmer Street on that one, Seafood. I
Mhm.
had to learn it, you know. I did it with you and with Mike Stern. You played some lines that were so cool. I started learning them and I went, man, it sounds cool in unison.
Mm.
And I ended up keeping it in unison, or I put it in unison on the record. But those lines were so cool, man. So good, good stuff, man.
Yeah, thank you for including me and actually starting off my attendance to any of these trade shows. The NAM show, that was the first NAM show when I came down to record with you. It was the
Oh,
first NAM show I had gone to. Was the summer session,
very cool.
and actually that's where I found a saxophone company that I'm still with to
Nice.
this day.
Nice.
So
Very nice.
so anyhow, is there anything else that you want to mention, or that maybe something you want to shout out?
I will say this that I've been running music camps. This year would be our 21st year. And I haven't made any announcements yet, but it looks like our camps will be online this summer,
Hmm.
like everything else, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and there's going to be benefits, some benefits to that. We will lose some of it. Of course, I won't have the human contact. You know, I won't be able to spend, you know, 20 to 21 hours a day with people like I usually do at my camps. I barely sleep. And, you know, once the day and classes are over, a bunch of us just sit up and talk or sit by the fire or whatever. So much fun. The food, we got the greatest chef. So we won't have all that. But because of online, we'll be able to have more people. We can
Hmm.
open it up to hundreds of people rather than just 60. You know, so we'll get to spread the word and the knowledge. But anyway, people can find out about my camps at my website, either victorwooten.com, and that covers everything. Or if you want to go straight to the campsite, which you can get there from my website, but the campsite is Vix Camps, but it's VIXCAMPS, VixCamps.com. The schedule's there, and within a few days, I'm going to be having a meeting. We're non for profit. We don't make money. I don't take money from the camps. Um, but I'm going to have a meeting with our board for the nonprofit, as well as the instructors and some of our advisory people, to discuss the summer. You know, because things are changing rapidly. Nobody knows when this thing's going to end, when we're going to be able to congregate again. So we're just going to have a talk early next week, and then we'll put some things online to let people know what the schedule is going to be and how to enroll. But I urge people to check it out because you and I, you, we learned how to play music in a different way that a lot of people didn't have the luxury of learning. For us, we were learning English, we were learning music too. You know, because our family did it and they just put us under their wing and carried us. And not everybody has that, but because we had that, it has given us a different outlook into music. And now that you and I both are in high levels of teaching, not only have we gotten our playing together, we've got our teaching together, and it's different, you know, and it's worth checking out. And I found people like you and other people uh, that think differently about music and can come together. So now, with it being virtual, you know, as busy as you are, you may have time to come in for an hour or two.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I
I
mean?
will definitely do that.
So we can reach out now as instructors to so many people that we may not be able to either time wise or monetary wise afford to get someone in for a day or two.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some benefits, and we're going to take advantage of every benefit and find all the silver linings to make sure that people get to learn from us. So that's my camps, the VIX camps. A new book is coming. Right now being called The Spirit of Music. We're getting that finished up, and we hope it'll be out by late fall. We'll see. And Steve Bailey and I, Steve Bailey known for playing six string fretless, but he's also now the chair of the bass department at Berklee College of Music. Steve is a very, very smart man. Back in 2000, whatever, 14 years ago, we had a website called the Bass Vault.
Hmm.
It was a paid membership site, but it was just ahead of its time. I mean, it was incredible, but bandwidth was expensive. Like we'd be paying a lot of money to do what we're doing right now. But
Right.
we were doing this. We had video screens.
Hmm.
We had anyone in the bass vault on the night we would schedule it. We had four cameras, and this was before everybody had a camera. But there'd be
Right.
four of us: Steve, me, Lee Sklar, Stanley Clark, Billy Sheehan, whoever had a camera, and then an audience watching. Now it's normal, but we were doing it way back then. It was expensive, and after a couple of years of it, we just couldn't maintain it. But we're bringing it back, and
Good. That's good.
oh man, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. So the base vault is coming. So I always have things going on, and I just say people, watch me or check my website out, victorwooten.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I've got a Twitter account. I get all my messages, and I try to answer them. It can take me a while. I do tell people I don't teach bass on these apps, you know. So, and I don't give bases away on these apps. I get asked for free bases. I get asked for, can you help me and give me some tips on the bass? No, I've got books, CDs, videos, camps for that.
Right.
But if you ask me a question, I'll do my best to answer depending on what it is. And I love to say hey, hello to people.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Victor. And you be safe, and God bless you.
You too, Sean. God bless you too, and thank you for having me on your show. Thanks for talking with me.
You got it, man.
Peace. Much love to you.
Have a good one.
You too.